when there's two sides to every coin. Then there's a conversation you can join. But I'm an old dog and there's new tricks. And some of my opinions you just can't fix. 'Cause I'm an old man yelling at the sky. I'ma shake my fists at the clouds and cry. Get off my lawn, you snowflake, before I have a meltdown, breakdown, shakedown. 'Cause this is my hometown, so back down, sports clown. It's all just a game, and it's the last down, let down, cowtown. I said it's all just a game. I give the touchdown, the rundown, the lowdown. 'Cause it's over the game, gonna crack down and shut down the sundown. I said it's all just a game.
Hey kids, happy Monday to you. Look who's here. He could have left. He had every opportunity. The door was wide open, but he chose to sit in that chair and not move. What are you doing? What's up? What's going on? What's shaking? You know, today is Calgary gets Connor Bedard Day. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Oh, it's actually rather a simple solution. I mean, they just have to move from 16 to 6 and then hope that 5 teams
trade up something.
No, hope 5 teams just go in different directions.
Yeah, pass.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, like last year, right? The projected number 1 fell.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I thought Treliving made a horrible mistake. So what if you could have won the draft?
You could have won the draft
right before
lottery.
you get Bedard. You quit.
Yeah.
What a silly goose.
Oh my gosh! It just seems like you're going at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Well,
happy lottery day.
Happy lottery day to you. You gonna watch tonight?
No.
No.
You know what? Yes, because I was talking to the other guys. People complain about the All-Star game and outdoor games and all this. This is truly the worst one of them all, right? Because you have a broadcaster and then ex-players and executive that don't want to be there. They don't want to
Oh,
be
no, this
on
is
there.
other duties as required.
It is horrible,
Right.
horrible television. And because of that, I must watch, I guess, just to...
Well, of course. Why they're
Yeah.
putting in the effort? At least we can do is watch.
Yeah. No, do you agree? Like, it's the worst. In terms of I
don't know. These generational player ones are interesting. Like I hated the outcome of the McDavid one, but the McDavid one was must watch, right?
I like the one, was it last year or 2 years ago when Jim Nill was on there and I'm picking 17th, the Dallas Stars. You can see him like click off his webcam. He was all pissed off.
Yeah.
Click.
Yeah. But I like that.
Yeah.
Right. Give me that.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I mean, we're not that, well, we are that far removed. I mean, we're both old enough to remember
Easy.
Crosby.
Steady.
Right.
I remember
and
that.
Brian
one.
Burke.
Yeah. That day, you'll like this one because I was in Winnipeg at my soon-to-be sister-in-law. Well, no, I guess she was already my sister-in-law. Anyway, her wedding. And we were in one of the rooms and everyone's getting dressed and all that.
Sure.
And it was pick number 4 or number 3, and my mother-in-law's like, "Okay, let's go. We don't need to watch. Do you have to watch this right to the end?"
Yeah.
Well, see, here's the thing about a lot of sporting events, and this one in particular. This one only gets really interesting at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, I left before I even knew.
Yeah.
And back then, it's not like you just had I'll just call up my phone. You had some StarTAC trying to T9 people and But
well, you remember, like, because Dopingen was in here a couple weeks ago, and him and his kid Evan wrote a book about the drafts, the different ones. And I thought it was interesting that they started with 71, where the Montreal Canadiens acquired the pick for Guy Lafleur from Oakland or California, and that franchise went away. And then they finished, the last draft they looked at was the Crosby draft, which Pittsburgh won. And you will remember, and I don't think a lot of people do remember, it was touch and go.
Sure it was.
Like,
which is why some people thought the fix was in.
Right.
That this team's going to leave. Mario is waning, and they're going to have to lose this
Jim
team.
Balsillie, he's going to get a BlackBerry. And no, where did he do the BlackBerry logo?
I don't know.
Remember he showed the logo? Was that
Yeah.
was that Nashville or
It
Pittsburgh?
might have been Nashville.
Right?
Yeah.
Remember when he was a thing?
Oh yeah. Well, you see, there's a movie out about it, a BlackBerry movie. Anyway, but you think
Yeah.
about what that means for tonight. Like that's the thing. There's the TV product and the entertainment value. I mean, it's whatever. But this is a massive day for some. You look at Pittsburgh and even Edmonton, new rink, jersey sales, cups, the whole 9 yards.
Well,
Some
and-
franchise is going to have the biggest booster cables.
Well,
hooked
and
to
that
it you
all due
could.
respect to our good friend Gab, who's hosting the show. Like last week or whenever, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, that the Oilers on the Friday put out we really appreciate Calgary, and we hope that the province
right,
will.
yeah.
Shut up. You got McDavid. There's nothing the government can give you
That's
that will ever be as good as that.
You have Ice District, you
Yes.
have a rink, and you have McDavid.
Given
Bugger off.
Yes, given the Flames would gladly take Bedard over a rink deal.
There have been times when the disparity has been big. Doesn't it feel really big right now? Even though
Oh,
the Flames
yeah.
just kind of missed the playoffs and they won a round last year and all
Well,
that.
McDavid might not even be the best player in the world right now.
The GM, I'm out.
Yeah.
Coach, fired.
Yeah.
Team, no playoffs.
I know.
It feels like.
And that's what I mean. Like, yeah, I think you guys were talking about it. Exactly how good is Leon Draisaitl right now? Is he the best player in hockey today? No, I'm not saying,
Yeah.
we know what McDavid is. We know what McDavid is, but my God.
He's the most highly skilled player,
Yeah.
McDavid, but it's amazing what Draisaitl is doing, and you keep waiting for him to tail regression, right?
Right.
And he just keeps scoring and scoring and scoring. And the goals they're not backdoor tap-ins. They're one-time.
No, yeah. That's
and I get
legit.
it,
It's all legit.
It's the power play, but still, that's
Part of the
it's
game.
amazing.
Right? The power plays,
Yeah.
last time I checked, still part of the game.
Yeah, it's
Right?
amazing. And I don't know. You wonder about still parts of their game, but man, even if that power play cools to what, 30%?
It's over 50% right now.
It'll just be how many opportunities do they get would be the
Well, that's what you're going to venture into, right? Like you're
Yeah.
going to get so scrutinized on a power play or a penalty call against or for the Oilers, right?
Yeah.
They got 50% chance of scoring here. Should they really have called that? I hate this time of year because we get into all these, nonsensical, questions and
it's just
dumbest
the game,
thing
Rob,
I-
right? Like it's just a
the
game.
dumbest
see
thing
it?
I've heard was some guy on Elliot Friedman's podcast suggesting that maybe there should be a rule change because Ryan O'Reilly doesn't wear a visor and got cut. And if he had a visor,
it wouldn't be a
it wouldn't be a
yeah.
penalty. So maybe we should look. That's how stupid things get right now.
Summit.
Time for a summit.
Time for a summit.
Eh?
We
Like
need to
tomorrow night, Florida wins 4-0. Toronto goes
Yeah.
in the sweep. Time for a summit, everybody. We better get
Yeah.
everybody
this
together.
grandfathering of no visors, it's ruined the game. I can't even enjoy the game anymore with these non-visor wearing thugs out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which was a better visual for you this weekend? Vander Kane and do we call her a Karen? Because that's what the internet world seems to be calling her, a random Karen or something like that.
right? Yeah.
Is it that one, or is it Jokic yesterday and the owner of the Suns
Yeah. they're
goes flying?
both-
Eh?
The woman's behind glass with the Kane one, but she is giving double
Double
middle
number
fingers,
ones.
double
Abs-
birds, and
Yeah.
he's blowing the kiss, which
Yeah.
is pure. It's a really great villain.
Oh, it's a very great
It's
villain.
very good.
Yeah.
And on the other side, it's the owner who is taking the dive.
Thank you. Thank you.
I respect it. It's like this. You have to suspend this guy. Did you see him shove me? Did you see what?
I went flying.
I'm the owner.
You can't do that
Yeah.
to me. Do you know who I am?
Yeah, and I think you would have. I have to think there's part. I was like, that was pretty good. Like it's kind of in good fun, but he probably didn't really think it all through. It's a spur of the moment.
Where's
kind
the
of a thing.
equivalent? Like, there's no equivalent to that, is there? In pro sport, there's
Vince McMahon getting power bombed through a table.
Yeah,
something
that's
like
the only
that,
thing
where
I
the
can think
owner
of.
is getting
because
yeah.
there's nothing going to happen in hockey,
No.
right?
Yeah.
The only thing that could have happened, God bless him, and he's not here to defend himself, but is if Ken King ever got, had the domey thing in Philadelphia where he was banging on the glass in the penalty box and the glass gave way and he fell in.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of. So
Yeah.
there's nothing in hockey. There's nothing in football. There's nothing in baseball. But here, the owners, like the best would be if he came with a neck brace, right? The next game.
It would be very good.
If
Very
he
Paul
showed
Heyman.
up,
Yeah.
yes, show up with the, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it'd be very
Oh
good.
my gosh.
Yeah. The Torts versus Hartley in the back alley there was that was pretty good. Different.
Oh
like
no,
the
that's
owner.
great.
That was some behind the curtain.
But if you had,
But-
if you had like Aquilini in there or somebody or Murray,
Francesco.
and all of a sudden Murray goes flying, right?
Yeah.
Did you see what happened? Owner down. It just great visuals. Like it's that time of year, right? You get these great visuals.
Yeah.
Did
Are you enjoying the playoffs?
Yeah.
Hockey? Because I won't pretend to tell you I've been watching any.
Yeah.
Basketball?
As you get older, I think things become very routine. First round's awesome. Second round, it's almost like, there's this relaxation and all, well, you know what? We're going to win big. Now we're going to win big, right? Like, the Toronto thing is, again, something that seems, pretty routine, expecting that. You look at that series and the Panthers winning there. You guys had an interesting conversation today about one of the mainstays on the roster of the Panthers, Mr. Bennett. Was it today or was it on?
That was last week.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
okay.
But it was that's Sam Bennett. And I maybe you don't get him here. Maybe it just wasn't going to happen. And should he have gone to the American League and could he work things out? But you thought again, happy to be the villain, playing his role. He is playing center, which he never really got a lot of time at here.
No.
But it's tough when the highest draft pick in franchise history pans out.
By the way,
And again,
yeah,
being that high, he's not a third overall. I think that you would have expected more for a pick that high. But when he seems to meet his potential elsewhere, and you really didn't get much in return, even though the return was probably what we thought at the time pretty good.
Well, the return was more than anybody expected.
I just the whole thing. It's hard now when you see what Tkachuk is doing.
That's the one that's hard for me.
Bennett, and you wonder what if Monahan doesn't run into all these injuries and is still a 30-goal guy, because for a while we marveled at his shot.
Sure.
His hands in tight were some of the best in the league. And then Gaudreau, and you just keep going down the line. That's
the hard one to watch to me is Tkachuk. That was this playoff Tkachuk is not last year's playoff Tkachuk,
No.
right? And I think you go back to Edmonton and go back to Kane, and Kane just lived in his head rent free.
Yeah.
And this Tkachuk, this is the best, possibly going to end up being the best drafted player by the Calgary Flames of all time. I'm not saying the best player, but I'm saying the best drafted player, because Iginla and Lanny were not drafted by Calgary, right? And this guy is a superstar. Like
Chris Chucko would like a word.
He would he?
His brain, Tkachuk, it's at another level, because he's not a good skater.
Mm-hmm.
But you never see him laboring to get into the rush. He moves the puck when he needs to. Everything is done. And he's got great skill. It's not his hands. I remember when we would have Brian Burke on the old show.
Yep.
When the puck is in our zone and it needs to get out, Matthew gets the puck out. There's no turnover at the top of the circles. There's no trying to skate it out through three guys and turn it over. It's smart plays. And there's maturity, and there's just getting smarter and more comfortable. And maybe that playoff series, the disappointment, I'm sure he felt it too, on obviously team level, but on a personal level.
Yep.
Yeah, he's the heartbeat. And then all of a sudden, Bobrovsky from the ashes, you could never have expected.
Well,
that
no,
was
you
gonna be the
were one of the guys talking about what a great story Lion was, right? And he was. Like, without him, they don't get to the playoffs. It wasn't Bobrovsky that got them there.
Yeah.
Right. But now all of a sudden he's decided, you know what, $10 million, I should play for up to that.
Yeah.
Right.
I just didn't know he was capable of it.
Well, if he's capable of it, you knew he's capable of it.
But it's been, when's the last time? It was years, really, since we've seen him put up any kind of numbers. But
two or three. I mean, Spencer Knight came. Was it last year Spencer Knight kind of arrived on the scene?
Yeah. And I wonder too how much when you are overpaid,
Mhm.
when your workload is lessened and
You
you're
should
not
talk to
looking
me about this because I know all about it.
Yeah, when your workload is lessened and you're not really looking for it to be it's probably very difficult. And then the door opens a crack. Now you got to be that guy, and I don't know that I would have picked Bobrovsky, but you kick that in, and it's my time again.
Mhm.
He must feel so good. It'd be great for any player to be for 6 in a row or whatever it is now to be performing at that high of a level, but for him to be, you thought I was done?
Mhm.
You thought I was done.
Mhm.
Get a load of me.
Mhm.
And now he's the toast of the
I
town.
wonder about playing down there. I wonder what that experience is like. Third period yesterday, the guy breaks in on Wall, and give Wall credit. I mean, stepped into the breach. I thought he was fine, and all of a sudden tries to go between the legs. I'm like, well, why is there's Tkachuk, and so it wasn't. It was Bennett.
Yeah.
Now Bennett's doing that stuff, and like you say, Bobrovsky rises from the ashes. Like, there's an advantage to playing. I mean, nobody comes to watch him during the regular season. Nobody cares once they are gone. But right now, life is good in South Florida.
And for Tkachuk, as Flames fans probably hate to hear it, everything worked out for him. I don't want to. I guess I'm a villain in Calgary, but I just am not going to want to sign there long term.
Yeah.
And players, if you're of a certain skill level, you can kind of call your shots. Adam Fox did it. There's another guy. Throw that guy into the mix. What if he's a Flame?
Well, I said that, and I don't know. Are you familiar with the social media people? They're interesting because I said, just what's the conversation if we're having about Brad Treliving's legacy if Adam Fox is with the Flames and
up
nominated
winning
Norris trophies
Flame,
and stuff like that? And of course, the internet people told me that everybody knew he wouldn't come here, so we couldn't have any fun with that. But you drafted him; nobody else drafted him, right? Everybody else had a crack at him; they all passed. So you're saying that there's, what in that particular draft, you regret not taking Adam Fox, a Norris Trophy winner, because you got a kid just on the cusp in Syracuse that might break through? Everybody had a chance at him.
I think maybe a year or two after the draft, you could argue that he's not interested in coming. But when he was 18 or whatever he would have been at that time,
sure,
I'm not sure he was at a skill level where he could say, Canada, not for me.
See, Ryan Pike's coming on, and I brought this up with him last week, and I don't think he buys it at all. I think one of the biggest issues that needs to be addressed by the next general manager, and quite honestly, by Murray Edwards and ownership and by John Bean and management, is what are you doing to keep players here? Because that's an issue now. That's an issue. Could you have kept? I don't know the answer, Boom, but could you and I have an argument that you could have kept Matthew Tkachuk had you made him the captain and there was a new building on the horizon? Would that have been enough to sway him?
With him, I don't think so.
Okay, fine.
Just because, and I really have nothing else, really nothing concrete to back it up other than just talking to people. And I don't think it makes him a bad guy. I just think here's an American-born guy. Hey, I would play in St. Louis. I would love to play there. He has no connections to Canada. But Craig
Conroy's an American-born guy, and he stayed.
I know, but everyone's different. And everyone's
everybody's different.
Look at Tkachuk's brother. He went to. I'm led to believe that Brady is kind of like mom. Matthew's kind of like dad.
Sure.
You're going to work for who pays you, and if you have a chance to call your shot, you're gonna. I think the one thing you could have done is if you would have given Matthew all of the money before the bridge deal coming out when he was 20 or 20. He would have been 20, I guess, at that time.
But maybe that's what you have to do moving forward, and maybe that's part. But I think you have to address you draft them, get to keep them concept. Right. And if you draft them, they're going to come here. I'm sorry. You want to come to Calgary as a free agent? Great. We're going to take you out to Banff. Why? Oh, it's gorgeous out there. We're not going to show you the rink. We're not going to show you the dressing room. There's nothing in there that's going to push you over the edge.
Yeah.
Right. Now, new building, that's a different story. I grant you that. But at some point, I think I'm old enough to remember the Canadian Equalization Fund and what a pain in the ass that was and how difficult it was to recruit guys to stay. And I think we're going down a different version of it. Yes, you can pay him the same amount of money, but why, Michael Backlund was born in Sweden, but he's chosen to live here. I don't buy there was an old cranky, grumpy guy that used to be in our business that bitched and moaned about American players all the time. Oh, they'll never sign. They'll never sign. They'll never sign. I just think that's a cop-out. I really think that's a cop-out. I think if you put players in a position where they want to be here and you show them you're not going to be a muddling team, you got a plan, you got a building, yeah, the fans demand a lot, but the athlete's supposed to want that.
We talked about this last week. Remember, there was a time where if you were a free agent, you would love to go to Detroit to be a Red Wing. Why? The Red Wing way. You
God, are you kidding me?
The whole thing.
Sure.
Detroit is not a nice place to live. Joe Louis was a dump, right? But having that culture of winning and here's how we do it. It's
Edmonton can get players now that they could never get before.
Yeah. That's what's missing here. And it has been for a while.
Guess they, 40 years could have got them.
Yeah. Is sustained playoff runs, victories, kind of that.
They're fair to Midland. They're always fair to Midland. Safe as death. That's John Tortorella's thing from 2004, but safe as death. And that's the one thing that I think the new general manager and ownership and everything need to address. This can't be about not offending people and not patting your, there's got to be a swagger here. Like you've got to get a chip on your shoulder around here about whatever, but you got to make these kids want to stay here. Like, I'm sorry. How good is Tkachuk right now? And could he have been that here? There's no reason to think he couldn't have been that here. I don't know.
And then you start to have a few of those guys kicking around, then it's cool for other guys to be there too. And I know when we look back and it's this Huberdeau contract that hasn't kicked in yet, and Brad has to wear it, right? He signed him to this mega contract extension.
Can I make a defense on that?
I think people forget how first you couldn't extend the old core, Monahan, Gaudreau. You couldn't keep those guys because you had to break up the core.
Yeah.
So then you had to move on. So you've moved on. Now this guy, no one wants to stay. Here was a guy that was going to stay.
Absolutely.
He is a star player. He's just had a career year.
Absolutely.
And is it extreme? Yeah. But I did kind of, and I don't know if it's actually, if it's a good one. I kind of use the rationale, at least this is how my brain works. Say you're buying a house and we're in the market, say $500,000. That's our budget. Well, this one's $525,000. Ooh, it's a little bit out of our range, but yeah, okay, we can swing that $520,000. You know what? The one over here is $540,000. That's kind of like $525,000. Well, $540,000. You were ready to pay $8-9 million to Gaudreau. What 9? Well, then what's 10? You were, I think, for fans, for everybody, you were already in that mindset, that space of spending $10 million on a star.
Sure.
So when this guy's here, well, he's a star.
Yeah.
He'll stay for the $10 million. Then give him the $10 million.
Yeah.
If Johnny won't take it, give it to him. Okay, good, done. Then it's $10 million a year.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
But not by the end of this contract. By the end of this contract, it'll be normal. By the end of this contract, it'll be normal. I've done this enough. My God, he's getting $1 million.
I know. But
right? Oh my God. It's crazy to me that the 0405 lockout, really, the fuse was lit on that on, it's on the tip of my tongue. The Rangers paid him 9.5 in the late 90s.
Bobby
Holik. It was the Bobby Holik contract that lit the fuse that ended up causing a year of hockey to go away. That lit the fuse. He was getting that, and that's in the 90s.
Yeah.
And even today, that would be a high contract, right?
Didn't they sign Drury the same day? I think.
Oh, yeah. The book's called Money Players. Bruce Tobin wrote it. Go read it. No, I will defend Tree because I think what he did had more to do with, or less to do with hockey and more to do with psychology. And I think this organization was effed because they just watched their two best players walk away. And I was in that building. It had nothing to do with the Flames, had nothing to do with ticketing, but I can tell you that it was a morgue, that it was death, that it was everybody's fault. And I can tell you those poor kids in customer service, they got their asses chewed out by fans. How dare you? Why does this happen? The crazy thing is how amazing. I didn't realize that almost every single Calgary Flames season ticket holder is a lawyer or married to a lawyer and they were going to sue. Like you go through that whole thing, right? With customer service. What Tree did was single-handedly calm the waters, bring everybody back down and go, it's going to be all okay. Now, did we get overconfident? Yes, we did. Will it be proven out? Perhaps. But if he doesn't make that move, if he doesn't do that, you might have had 6,000 people in that building this year, Boom. That may be an overreach, but that's what I feel. Like, you watched two of the best players you will ever draft walk away from this organization. And the one took less and a year less. $15 million left on the table to go to Columbus, Ohio, because there may or may not be a really good children's hospital for his wife to work at.
And you strip it a little bit further is knowing that the story there is that he wanted to stay. He almost stayed to the point that he's back. The owner is trying to get him on the phone. Hey, congratulations on coming back and signing the extension. And then things go sideways.
Right.
So from Treliving's perspective, it was a horrendous kind of first you get bombed out by the Oilers.
Yep.
Then Tkachuk wants out. Then Gaudreau doesn't come back. Yeah, it doesn't justify it, but I see it. You needed a win. You needed a PR
that's
win.
a great way of putting it. You needed a win. And if you didn't have that win, knowing what we know now, if you didn't give Huberdeau the contract, I'm not sure anybody at this juncture would have cared. But they all cared a year ago. Or they all cared, a while ago.
Because then why did you do this deal when you just saw these two players leave? All these two are going to do in a year is leave too.
Correct.
Uyghur and Huberdeau, they're unrestricted.
Correct.
They're just going to leave.
Correct.
So it felt like with the asset of Tkachuk, you'd still rather have Tkachuk, but you got these two players. But now that asset goes on. There's still.
I really wish people would apply a more 360-degree view to these conversations, because it's real easy to sit here and say, well, I wouldn't have given him that. Cool. Sit in that desk, hear the calls, talk to the people, deal with the pressures that are there. It's a real world thing. Like, you can play fantasy GM, no problem. Yeah. But there's a real world GM. And I don't think he gets enough credit for what he did for this organization last year. Because if he didn't do it, I think it's not about leaving town or whatever, but it could have been into a nosedive in a hurry. Right.
And you never know what the external pressures are too. And not to suggest that there was, but what if ownership says, listen, sign this guy. We're taking a kicking here in the court of public opinion.
That's the business.
No one wants to be here.
Absolutely.
Well, we can sign him, but it's going to be this. Sign him.
I find it a little. I find a lot of the announcements are now very much timed, and God bless the people that make those decisions. But this club was taking it up the chute right after the season when they sent out renewals. People were sharing their renewal messages on social media. Yeah. They were sharing their responses on social media. It was not healthy. You needed to change the narrative. You just had your GM say, you didn't fire your GM. Your GM said, I don't want to be here anymore. You were rejected by the GM.
Yeah. And you know what? And I know that I think it's the kind of the point you're making is, I think anytime in business, in life, merit, work, school, whatever it is, sometimes you need that hard reset. Okay. Hey, what you're doing isn't working.
No.
Now there's your wake up. There's the kick. Now, how do you respond to it? Are you going to just kind of continue doing what you've been doing and see if now it's just going to steadily work its way back? Or do you need to shift gears and put a little bit more into it? So I don't know. It just feels like the time with so many contracts expiring at the end of next year. I just look at this team. You can't be.
How many of those would you bring back?
I don't think any right now, Rob.
You wouldn't bring Lindholm back?
No. How old is he? He's
the same age as Sean Monahan.
Get younger now. Now's your chance. Don't give him $8 or $9 million and have him turn 32, 33, 34, 30. I have no doubt. I think that he can be a little Patrice Bergeron light. I think he's going to be a very good player until he's done.
You wouldn't bring Backlund back?
No. I think Michael Backlund has been a great Flame. Thank you for your service. We've lived up to our end of the bargain, as have you. Good luck in free agency. We need and what would you be paying him?
I'm just going off the top of my head. Is Dubé due?
He signed 2 summers ago.
Or is it Mangiapane that's due?
Mangiapane signed last.
Yeah, anyway,
it's
7 guys. I know that.
Yeah, so Tanev,
Yep.
Lindholm, Toffoli,
Toffoli.
Backlund.
There. That's what I
just-
think it was.
And well, then you got to replace him. Yeah, you do. But other teams do it. Other teams do it.
But remember, we started this conversation before about, should we have let Bennett go?
But he was 24, 25 at the time.
Yeah.
For me, it's just an age thing because you watch the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
And you watch New Jersey work and you watch the Kraken work. It's a lot of young teams out there.
Mhm.
It's guys, and Warner was rolling through the ages this morning. I think of the Panthers is 25, 27.
The Flames were like the second oldest team, were they not this year?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, something in that.
And
category.
there's a couple guys that'll tilt that, obviously, when you have Lucic or Lewis or whatever. But there's an opportunity here where you don't need to send guys to other teams plus a pick to get a cap off your book. It's just contracts.
Oh no. And I don't think
expiring.
And I don't think you should keep 7.
Which is not to say you don't go back into free agency and get somebody else to replace a Backlund. Like, you're going to need centers, obviously. And I don't think that Ruzicka's ready to take on a second line role.
Part of it, the Backlund ones is kind of personal for me because I think here you very rarely can you ever draft, develop, play, and retire a player in the same organization.
Oh, I like the story. And I have not always been a Backlund guy. The last 5 years, he should be. He should be a career Flame.
Yes. And that's where I come on that one. Lindholm, I'm there for you. But part of me is, are you going to play the kids? Are you? Because to your point, was it Daryl not playing the kids or was it the owner not playing the kids? What are the marching orders here?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that's to me is one of the biggest parts of this is the first summer that I ever remember Murray Edwards' name being written in as many columns as it's been written in. And I credit the Flames. They've done such a marvelous job of training us in the media to avoid talking about, we never ask for the owner. We never bring up the owner. We always talk about the team from the general manager, the president hockey operations down. But it's quite obvious this summer that what ownership's direction has been for this organization is an issue. Good, bad, or indifferent. It is an issue. Is it not? Am I wrong about this?
I think so. I think what's ordinarily very commendable, we spend right to the cap, we give you full budget, we want to make playoffs every year.
Yes.
That sounds like something that's it's just not realistic. It's just not, you wouldn't run every business that way. Here,
but to me,
set the ultimate goal,
Yeah.
and then
But
that and only that is how we build.
But remember, this is a business. Remember, this is a business. And it goes back to my 360-degree view of this stuff. You can be a fantasy GM, knock yourselves out. It is not a fantasy world. It is a reality. And I go back to, if Tree does not sign those two guys, and he doesn't make the trade, whatever, he doesn't get those guys, financially, business-wise, renewals, whatever you want to say, sponsorship would have taken a hit. And this whole bullshit, oh, Jesus, Ty, I saw you yesterday. I said I wouldn't do that. I apologize, Ty.
Sorry, Ty.
No. But I'm sorry, there's no rebuild. I'm not allowed to say rebuild. Sorry, it's on the table. It has to be on the table.
Yeah.
Right? It has to be on the table. What do you think? It's not chickens. Your season ticket holders aren't chickens. Everybody knows what it means. But the reality of that, though, even if you go through 2 or 3 years, you are not going to sell as many tickets. You are not going to sell as many premium products. You are not. But the hope is that when you get out of that, you're good. And I go back to, Edmonton, screw off. You don't get government money. You got McDavid and you're going through this. You're selling stuff. Your revenue's out through the roof. You're okay, right? That's what you're hoping for. Yeah. You're hoping that you get out the other end and you can create that jersey revenue or that merchandise revenue, retail revenue, that sponsorship. People want to be aligned with you. It is a business.
The thing of it is, though, the word rebuild, I feel like it's almost being interpreted as acceptable losing. We're going to accept losing. No. It's like it's a refresh as you would in any business. So maybe it's a new logo. You're going to renovate your showroom at the car dealership. Remember when it was Ole Jokinen and Owen Nolan and Todd
which go round,
and you know what I mean?
I do. It's always been,
and no one talked about it being a rebuild. But then all of a sudden, in comes Gaudreau and Monahan and some guy. This guy was a late pick, but look at him. The kids came in and they didn't suffer ticket sale.
Yeah, they did. They did for
No.
a short period of time. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. They did not sell the same without Iginla. Iginla drove a lot. There's some people who believe Iginla drove as much in his prime as 20% of the income of the Calgary Flames.
Sure.
Right.
And I don't mean to say again, I just, that
I know
incarnation where they turned the page and let the kids play. And the fan base was like, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. But you did not make as much. Now, but the problem was the frickin' find a way Flame bullshit. Oh, Ty, I'm having a bad day.
Ty.
That thing screwed everything up because that changed everything. We're closer than we think we are. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're further actually away, right? You had unbelievable luck that we will never see again for a century, right?
Yeah.
Down 4-0 with 6 minutes to go in Ottawa. You score 4 goals and win it in overtime. Yeah, that's lucky.
I was trying to think, what was the one with Boston where the puck like landed on top of the mesh on the net and then fell and then went in or something?
Brody
like
in overtime.
That's
Yeah,
right,
for sure.
Brody won in overtime.
Yeah.
I just look at this team now and if you don't want to call it a rebuild, don't say rebuild. It's an overhaul of the roster, which doesn't mean we're going to go from 50 wins or 40 wins to 11.
I don't think
it's play younger players.
That to me is all this is. This is not a rebuild, but it's giving Wolf a spot. It's giving Pelche a spot. It's giving Dewar a spot. I would, I'm going to die on this hill. I go back to Matty Phillips and said, we screwed up. Here's a 1-way, 1-year deal. Come in, let's play. Right. Right. Like,
yes.
and you know what? Poirier, get ready because you're not that far behind. And Zary, get ready. You're not that far behind.
Shillington,
he's coming back.
Welcome home.
Yeah. So that to me isn't a rebuild. It's not like you're going 18, 19. You're going 21, 22, 23.
Yeah.
Right.
I just wonder if that's what ownership hears when they hear rebuild. Because and your point is a good one. If I'm the owner,
yeah,
I love it. I love the Flames, but it's also a business. And if we go from 19,000 to 17 to 16 to 14 to we can probably put the curtains up on the third deck because we don't use it anymore. It's like shit. Should we have just signed a free agent or two on July 1st? Should we have spent $8 million to keep 12 million? I don't know.
To me, it was all the guy that let the cat out of the bag was Feaster when he went on TSN after they traded Iginla and Bowmeister the next year. And he said, and they're talking to him about a rebuild. He said, guys, my job is still to make the playoffs. Right. Yeah. It's still because there's money to be made in playoffs. Right. There's money to be made in playoffs. It is a business. But I would get down on my knees and beg Murray Edwards and beg the Flames owners to reconsider their threshold for,
to me, what it is
their risk tolerance. Because I think they're way too careful. I think they're way too scared.
Find your ultimate goal, not playoffs every year, the Stanley Cup. That's the ultimate goal. Now let's work towards that. And how do we get there? Not playoffs every year. Not,
but Murray would have told you, I just did my thing. I brought in the coach that can get us there.
It's just clear. It's clear now. How many since remember it was 89 to 04 and then 04 to there's not been a long line of playoff success here. The Kraken they're on a clip right now. The Vegas Golden Knights, there's a lot of these teams. It just isn't.
And that's the other thing, not to defend ownership here, but I think the reality is this is not a Calgary issue. There's lots of owners like Bill. You want to work for Bill Foley? Cool. I mean, they've almost had as many coaches as the Flames have in the last 5 years, right? And they've been in the playoffs. They've gone to a Stanley Cup final. Like, I get it. We remember when teams were reasonable, like 180 million, 200 million, and we were all going to win the 649. And what we're going to do, we're going to buy a team and we're going to run a team, right? That was always the dream, right? We were going to buy a team, right?
Had to have been bitching about something else then.
No.
Only one team was winning the cup every year then too.
Yeah,
there would have been
but to me, it's gone from the owner, the family owner, and everything like that to a business now. Yeah. The Calgary Flames are more about the arena district, and the Edmonton Oilers are more about the arena district and the brand representation and owning the properties and things like that. The hockey's part of it, and it's a huge part of it, but it's a business, right? It's not a passion. Like when Federic was here and Fateri, I always said that they didn't own the Stampeders. They held the public trust. And that's what I always thought ownership was. You hold the team in public trust. You don't own it. You hold it in public trust. It's a business. It's all business now.
Yeah.
And this is a business, Mark. For Christ's sake, we're on a business.
And if it goes too far the other way, where you do treat it like a hobby, or you're like Jerry Jones, right? It's a business, but should he be calling the shots, the football? I don't know.
No. And I always thought the guy I always looked at was Mark Cuban, right? Oh yeah, I'd love to have an owner like Mark Cuban. No, I'm good, thank you. I don't even know what the proper ownership is anymore. Is it Vinnick in Tampa? Is that what ownership should look like?
It wasn't the guys before.
Or who owns it now? Is it Vinnick?
Yeah,
no.
It's Jeff Vinnick.
Yeah.
But as far as the Flames,
certainly not the people who own the A's.
No, that's what a mess that is. But I feel for Flames fans right now. People ask, so is it Conroy, or what are they going to do? Is Jerome coming back? I don't know, but it's a big hire.
Do you have a problem with Stan Bowman?
Yeah.
Me too. When do I get to express that?
Anytime.
Oh, or should I wait?
I got asked about him and Quenneville last week.
Yeah.
And I said, I just feel there's way too much stink from what happened in Chicago. And you had a Bill Peters situation here that is still not that far in the rearview mirror. And I don't know, the Chicago team that won cups, was that not built before he took over? I'm not sure what Stan Bowman
I think
really did.
I think he had a role to play in that. I mean, certainly. Why am I blanking? Went to a former broadcaster, former Hawk, went to Florida. I'm getting old. Boom. Dale Talon.
Yeah.
Dale Talon. And then, Bowman came in and kind of got it to the next level, sort of thing.
But they'd already won that first cup, and you had,
that
was Bufflin and Versteeg and Sharp and Kane and Taves and Seabrook.
And they let Talon go because he didn't put the right amount of postage on
they missed the deadline
on renewals or something.
I think what it was is they had to qualify their RFAs.
That's what it was.
Didn't. So then all of a sudden Versteeg and Fraser and Bufflin and all these guys were free to go.
Yeah.
Why do you have a problem with Stan Bowman?
Because what he did to Kyle Beach is it's wrong. And I'm sorry, second chances, absolutely. But if it's win at all costs and screw humanity, I'm sorry. I still believe you can win with dignity. I can still believe you can win with morals and screwballs. And if you're telling me that Stan Bowman can get me a Stanley Cup, I'd rather Craig Conroy, who I trust explicitly and is a good human being and would do things for the right reasons. I'll take that every time. At some point, you got to stand for something, don't you?
And I'm a big proponent for second guesses and making mistakes and learning from them. I think that you talk about the internet people, we're way too hard on people who make a mistake and we bury them and we pile on.
Oh,
okay, mistake, but now how?
Yes.
How do they take that? What do they do with that?
Yes.
And maybe if you meet Stan Bowman, if there is remorse and if there has been stuff done, I win me over. Show me, win me over.
Oh, sure.
But
that to me, that one is inexcusable. The way that life was altered and changed and impacted with no regard, right? And what bothers me to this day, Boom, is how they still, right up until the last minute, that organization tried to, because of course, you know what they did the day the news came out? They hired 8 women for scouting roles and roles within the organization. Yeah. So everybody was praising them for being up. And I feel for those ladies because they deserve the opportunity. That's not the point, but it wasn't done for that. It was done to see, hey, look what the left hand's doing. Don't worry about the right hand. And I hate that. That's just as bad.
So you mentioned Conroy's name.
Yes.
You kick me out one. Are you ready? I'll go.
No, something buzzed. I thought it was you.
No.
Okay.
If Craig Conroy doesn't get this job, he has to leave, right? You can't sit as an AGM through another general manager's contract. And I'm not saying he should have been when Treliving was hired, but Treliving was here for a long time. Conroy has been molded and prepped for this job. When this job is now open and you don't get it, I feel like you have to leave and go somewhere else, regardless.
Yep. I no. Yep. No. Yes, the logical part of my brain. Yes, the he's a friend of mine, so I don't want him to leave town. But yeah, exactly.
I don't know why they didn't just install him. I don't know why.
I do know why, because I think if they had, they would have been criticized for
By whom though?
the same people who criticized them, about everything. About, the Daryl Sutter thing became a story during the season because it became public and people were critical of it, right? You can't run an organization like that. If you just go back to internal, we're not that far removed from up in Edmonton and Kevin Lowe and Craig McTavish and Gretzky and Coffey and all of those sort of things. And there's a lot of people that hate that, right? There's a lot of people who say you got to cut the ties and you got to get the right people. I do believe you have to have a search. I absolutely do believe you have to have a search. But to me, I've said it on my program a number of times. My question is Craig Conroy right for Calgary? Is Calgary right for Craig Conroy? Because I think he's what else you supposed to do? What else can you do? What else could he have done? Right?
The thing with Conroy is if people are thinking that it's just another Treliving because they work together, not so. There were a lot of things that Brad did that Craig didn't agree with. And there were things that Craig thought should have been done that Brad didn't think should have been done. Not that they were polar opposite, but it's a differing of opinion, and that's what you want.
But that's what you want, right?
That's what you want.
That's exactly what you want.
I think it would be great for Craig to get in there if he can allow him to do what he thinks should be done. Let his vision start to take place. I know that we're going to do a search and do our due diligence and all of that. I guess but where is the criticism going to come from where you have a guy who was a player for a decade and has spent another decade learning the ropes in your front office? No one knows the city, your farm system, the players. No one knows it better. And it's not as though he's not respected around the league, or he hasn't been an AGM, or he hasn't been to every World Junior, World Under 18, World Under 16. He's been to every corner of the hockey world. I just don't know who, and they'd be dead wrong if they were going to criticize him for not.
No, I think it wasn't him. I think it's the criticism of the organization. When's the last time the organization did a search for anything?
See, to me, this what they did, I criticize. This is janky.
What?
When you've got a guy in wait.
Yes,
that you can move into the GM's
you're
chair
asking me to,
and you make him jump through hoops now?
You're asking,
that's janky.
But you're asking me to, okay. I would have installed them day one too, but I understand why they didn't. Let's review. There was no wide
chicken shit.
There was no wide net. There was no wide net for Treliving. There wasn't. They found that Burke went and got the guy he wanted. He did. Right? There was no wide net for Bill Peters. Right? Tree went and got the coach that he wanted.
Yeah.
There was no wide net when Ward took over. There was no wide net when Daryl took over. There was no wide net when Feaster got the job. There was no wide net with Brian Burke. There has not been a wide net. Like, do you think that there was a wide net when Brent got the coaching job?
I think there's a difference between.
Was there a wide net when Hartley got the job?
Being handpicked.
Yeah.
And Hartley was here because he was with Jay Feaster. Correct. And Jay wanted his guy.
Correct.
And the owner wanted.
But if you go through this process, if you interview Stan Bowman, if you interview Eric Tulsky, if you interview Mike Fuda, if you interview Brad Pascal, if you interview Dean Molberg, if you interview, and you come back and you go, Craig Conroy is it. To me, that's a far greater endorsement. And I think that's where they end up. But to me, then you don't get they didn't go get somebody. Because you and I both know this is not going to work perfectly at all times. There will be down times. So when the down times hit, they didn't go out and they didn't get an analytics guy. They didn't go out and they didn't get a players coach. They didn't go out and didn't get a hard ass, right? We can go through the list of all the different types. But to me, if you go out and you come back and you tell me, yep, we did it, and Craig Conroy's the guy, you covered all bases. That's how I look at it.
So then they'll be free of criticism if There's
No, they
missteps.
won't be free of criticism.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is that the people that are going to bitch and complain are going to bitch and complain regardless. So
But as
why
a
don't you
small
conduct
business owner,
business?
I have a different perspective on this. As a small business owner, I feel like I need to do some due diligence. And I'm critical of this organization about the way they do business. So if they're about to do something which they have not done this. We just established that. I am not going to stand in the way. But if they go, oof, we went and
Now, when you say done this, what do you mean? They
what
have
I
not
just
done
said,
this.
they have not done a search.
They've also not promoted from within to the general manager chair in a long time,
No, it'd be Al Coates.
right?
It'd be Al Coates. And now Peter Marr. Al Coates made the two most important trades in Calgary Flames history. Jerome McGinley, Robin Regeer.
If that's your measuring stick, pretty good.
Right?
They've not, as coaches, you take an assistant, Jim Playfair, that didn't work. But to graduate
Yeah,
from
but why
within
didn't
to
that
the
work?
I know.
Right? That deck was stacked too. Right?
agree.
Because you're my assistant. You come in and do what I want you to do. And that's fine. You knew what you had in the general manager and the coach then, right?
Yeah. I hope it works out. I just feel from an observer to, oh yes, we have a couple of very good candidates, and yeah, you do. And I just don't think, and when you said wide net, I think there have been searches, and I think there have been difficulties in the past where you just weren't going to come here knowing the
way the
parameters. You were never going to have full autonomy. I'll trade whoever I want, whenever I want. Everybody has to go up the ladder.
You had to work for Ken King.
We talked to.
You had to work for Murray Edwards.
Yeah.
You had that was the way it was established, and that automatically took certain candidates out of the picture. But I do believe in the last decade or so they have been flying a little loose with the interviews, and I think Gulletson I think they did a fairly wide net on.
Yeah.
Right. I forgot about him. But I think they did a fairly wide net on him.
And I think depending on how you characterize wide net, there was a search when Jeff Ward came back, because and what are you going to say? Hey, this is our guy. This is perfect guy. That was not the answer that they were hoping for. There was no coach who was going to come here for the situation or the money. Jeff Ward would. So
no, that's a fair counter. That's a fair counter. I feel like I'm arguing with you for the sake of arguing with you. I'm the same way. Like, he's right here. And if for some reason, he got another job, and I'm talking about Craig Conroy, I think Pascal's got to be 1A.
Wouldn't you love to have your GM working right now?
Yeah, but if he's
GM work right now.
Yeah, but if he's not, it's okay right now because the two AGMs are. Conroy was just scouting in Europe,
right?
And you've already put your draft to bed, and to be perfectly honest, what if you do go and hire somebody from out? They may not be able to run your draft, right?
Which is again why I think you give it to the guy you've been molding for this position for more than a decade.
I agree, but if we're gonna say we're gonna do a wide net, and if we're gonna do things the right way, go. But you're going to come back with this answer, and then we can move on. And you're right to criticize him. If it takes a month or 6 weeks, we just lost 6 weeks. Yeah, I get it. I'm just glad that I really liked Maloney's press conference last week. I really liked it. Really, really liked it. I thought he looked good. And I don't normally say that, but I just thought, his answers were good. And man, it is the next coach's job. Or the next GM's job to pick their coach, right?
Yeah.
So I laugh a little bit at our, Mitch Love, this is why he should be the leading candidate. You can write him if you want him, but we don't know who the GM is. And the GM is going to play a large role in who the coach is.
Yeah.
We've solved nothing. I don't know if you know that.
Well, I don't know. Do I have to go?
No, you don't have to go. No.
I saw your clip from last week talking about, regardless of the coach, the pressure that has to ultimately now be on Jonathan Huberdeau. It has to be. You may not have won the struggle.
The internet people don't like it when you say things like that, right?
Know.
Like, there was one, I wish I had it in front of me. I thought he quoted it right out of a 1950s gangster movie. Okay, pretty boy, if you don't do it,
we got to get you off the internet. That's what we got to get you off Twitter.
And another guy goes, duh. Of course they do. Okay, sorry, we didn't mean to insult your intelligence.
But
But it's to
even
me,
if it isn't.
no. And
Did you win the power struggle? No. Yeah, but no. Here's the thing: one of the major perceived stumbling blocks in your terrible season was your relationship with your coach.
Mhm.
Well, all right. Can you get along with this guy? You better.
Well, mine was, and I never really articulated. But my point really came from I'm angry, not angrier, but this is more of a finger point at the agent. I'm not an Alan Walsh guy. I don't know him from a hole in the ground, but I just the way he does business.
I like the transparency. I got to be honest.
Do ya?
I do like being able to see because I always say I try and be somewhat cautious because we want people to say things. Don't just give us stock answers. And then when you come out, when people do come out and say something that is honest, then we crush them. I was like, don't crush them. See what they've got to say. See if there's something there. And I think there was something there where here's a guy who was the highest scoring winger and then wasn't playing on the wing. And is he getting there was something up with him and Lindholm. Daryl at the start of the year, well, Lindy's our best player and he gets to play with who he likes to play with. Very weird. And they never played together. You think about it, it's not as though they had lines that were just chugging right along. How could you break up these lines? There was no chemistry. I mean, Lindholm and Toffoli were fine, but still, the guy that had a career year on that side, there's an open spot on that top line. I don't know what the hell was going on. I just,
do you think
people think that because Sutter's gone, it's fixed? They're sadly mistaken. Which is why I just think if you have a chance to shake up something in that room and you've got all these contracts.
Do you think Scott Boras is good for baseball?
I mean, he's a great agent. Everybody gets paid.
But now
money.
But now he's forced himself into a lot of conversations about the game, and he's done an amazing job of making himself almost the third pillar. Right? Yeah. Players, owners, and Scott. And I think that's where Walsh wants to live. I think Walsh wants to be hockey's version of Scott Boras. God bless. He's a powerful guy. But he does, like somebody said, it's almost disingenuous for Marc-Andre Fleury or Derek Brassard or Jonathan Huberdeau to come out and go, hey guys, that's Alan. I don't know why he did that and everything. Sorry. That's the truth. Fire him. None of you guys fired him, right?
If 8 times out of 10, management has to dislike the agent because all they're out to do is what's best for their player and get the most money.
Sure.
Is there maybe 2 times out of 10 where there's some value to them, where you can really know what's going on with your player? I just wonder if you were a general manager this year and you talk to Jonathan. He's like, no, everything's fine. Oh, I'm just whatever. Can you then go to the agent and say, hey, listen, we got to make this work. What's going on?
Absolutely.
With him.
And I have zero problems with agents. Actually, I think they're a very important part of it. My problem is this game we're playing with Alan Walsh. He gets upset for his client, and then his client comes out the next day and goes, oh, Alan, no. I never talked to Alan about that. Oh, no. Right? Bullshit. Come on, man up. I'm glad he did it. That's why I hired him. That's why he gets 13% or whatever I earn. That's why I pay him. It
happens though. Remember when Sam Bennett was here? We heard from his agent. He wasn't getting the ice time, wasn't playing.
No, I get it. I get it. But like I go back to the baseball equivalent of Scott Boras. Like, Boras has a manifesto. Have you ever heard of his manifesto? Like Scott Boras has an entire plan for baseball. Like entire plan of restarting it and building it from the ground up. Like he wants to own baseball. And that's okay. But what do you want out of this? And that's why I thought it was interesting last week when Don Maloney, I think it was an acknowledgement, public acknowledgement. Yeah. Eric DeHatchik said it. Peter Marr said it. Everybody said it without being prompted. Oh, did you hear that? He brought up the agents.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing wrong with it.
There again, if you're covering all your bases, I guess you talk to as many people as you can. You have every conversation.
No, you're doing your due diligence, right?
And I guess maybe in fairness to Don, he's not a puppet. Talk to the agent, glean from it what you would like, but have the conversation. So
whose agent do you think he talked to? Or whose agents do you think he talked to?
Well, I would think he'd have to have talked to Alan Walsh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, but that, you know what that would be? I don't think that would be oh my goodness. Well, here we are on May 1st, and I'm shocked to hear all of these revelations. I'm sure that they were very familiar. The Alan Walsh text and phone conversation line has been going all season.
He's got his own podcast, eh?
Yeah.
Have you ever talked to Alan?
Oh, it's been a while. We had him on the show.
Did you?
Yeah.
I don't think I ever did. I don't think I've ever.
I think a lot of these agents, they're lawyers, they're salesmen, they tap dance. Hey, how we do? Hey, what's going on?
I think the part of agents that never gets talked enough about is how much they're psychologists, how much they're big brothers, how much they're.
Which is why I think from a GM's perspective, if there could be some value,
absolutely.
If you're going to get the honesty, because truly, player, GM, agent, they all want the same thing. To win. How do we get there? And I probably sometimes GMs are like, screw that. Why would I ever talk to that guy? Block his number. I don't know.
You know what you are? You're the greatest. You are the greatest.
I need an agent.
You need an agent.
Look where I got myself.
I'm a terrible. I came in today. I'm bitching at you because you won't text me back. I'm bitching at Gavin. I'm bitching at Jack. I'm bitching at everybody. And you know what you do? You read the room and you go, that guy needs a friend. I should sit down and tell him that's okay. You're the best.
I started doing that in 2007.
I understand it, but you've never stopped.
I would walk into a room. It's like, Rob's having a bad day. Let's turn this thing around.
I'll just sit with him and let him rant about Alan Walsh, and he feels so much better now.
Do you remember the day you asked me, why are you always so damn happy?
Yes.
I come into the hot stove lounge at the Dome, and I got my coffee and I got my suit on. It's a game. Here's all Rob working away. You got the black
and there's
It's raining on top of Rob.
Right.
I'm whistling. How we do? Oh yeah. Why are you so damn happy? Come on, the sun's out and it's a game day and we're here and we're this.
I can't think. Apologies. It was not intended to do this. Friday was my 20-year anniversary.
Yeah.
20 years ago on May 5th, 2003, I started at 960.
Yeah.
And this has been like home, right? Like this is my home. This is what I do. This has been the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. The two biggest people that have had probably the most impact on my outlook in life were Joe Sports and you, because you guys both kept me from becoming that guy that lived his character. And I'm not, we play characters, right? We play characters. You're not the same guy here on the radio. That's right. I was really close to becoming a character.
It was one of the first real kind of things.
Yeah.
When I started working with you, because I was a hardcore listener prior.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is Rob Kerr. We're good. This is going to be.
Yeah.
And it's just, you were a long ways away from that.
Yeah. But you and Joe both played a huge role in making me a human being, because I was in danger of becoming that guy that believed he believed what he was. Does that make any sense? Like, I'm just a guy that does what I do, but I was in danger of beginning to believe my own headlines or whatever, really in danger of that. And it wasn't for you, I would have careered off and I would have been a complete jerk and I wouldn't have helped anybody. And I would have lived in solitude on a mountain and thought, well, they're not calling me because they're scared of my brilliance. And now I know that it's actually the opposite of that. So I'm forever indebted to you. And I was thinking about that on Friday, because the greatest thing that ever happened was coming here and meeting you guys. And even this is, it wasn't a great start today, but we turned it into an hour or something.
I think about because I mean, we don't need to have this conversation, but it shifted when you got there. We've told this story before, because it was the radio station that was there changed when you got there. Instead of being, we're done programming at 5 p.m., 6 p.m.
Oh, no, we're not.
Well, why? You started asking questions. Well, do we do call-ins after the game? No. Well, why? Do we do afternoon? Why don't we have that? Why?
Yeah.
Well, I guess just do them. And then it just became, that's what you do at 960, because that's the way it's always been done. No, it's because that's what Rob started doing when he got there.
Yeah.
And we all worked our balls off because you worked your balls off, and that just became the way that station ran.
Yeah, but I, honest to God, Boom, if it wasn't for you and Joe, I was in danger of believing my own headlines, and that wouldn't have been a good place to end up.
Well, that's nice.
Not that I'm perfect by any stretch. That's not what I'm saying. But you're right. You would come in. Why are you so damn happy? I don't get this, because you got to work. Get the prep done. All right, now, hey, how is everybody? I'm having a great day, right? And then the light goes off. Work, prep, right? And, you know, if it wasn't for you, if it wasn't, you know, taking that deep breath, and again, it's the Bruce Boudreau story, right? We're just sitting in there one day and Bruce comes walking by the door and he goes, "You guys okay? What? You have no window."
Windows in here.
There's no windows in here.
Do they make you come down here?
Yeah,
Can't you go to the radio station?
Exactly.
What did you guys do?
Yeah, exactly. So thank you, bud.
Well, buddy,
This was fun.
It was.
It was fun. I appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, pal. I got to bring Ryan on. I just have to, because he needs to yell at me.
Well,
You know how that is.
have fun with that.
I will.
Beautiful.
There you go. Dean Molberg, everybody. Boomer, you know him from Barn Burner every single frickin' day on this. Well, not Saturday and Sunday, but you know what I mean. All the time. They are the best, and you should listen to them. Of course, he's one of our guests, brought to you by Ski Cellar Snowboard. I was going to say snowboard ski cellar, but that would be wrong. It would be Ski Cellar Snowboard. Sorry, Neil. Ski Cellar Snowboard.com. 76 years in Calgary. 76 years in Calgary. By the way, I'm live in the Oodle Noodle studio. Local, love, delicious. Since opening their first store back in 2005, Oodle Noodle has been all flavor and just the right amount of weird. 2 locations, 1244 17th Avenue Southwest, 105 Main Street North in Airdrie. Pick up and delivery. Well, we've mentioned them before. We should mention them again. Ski Cellar Snowboard, 3 locations in our great city. And we would love you to go check them out. Even, I know, like, it's beautiful right now, but the winter's going to come back soon enough. McLeod Trail by Chinook Center, 17th Avenue Southwest, just off of 14th Street, Bull Ridge Road, Northwest. All righty. Let's bring in Mr. Pike. He is the managing editor of FlamesNation, and he is kind enough to join us this afternoon on Connor Bedard Day. And we've already implied that the Calgary Flames are mere hours away from actually being able to select him, as they have moved from 16 to 6th, with a 1.1% chance of that. And then 5 teams will have decided they've scouted better players than Connor Bedard. Not drafting, he'll fall right into the Calgary Flames lab. I've laid it out. Brian, you're welcome.
That's exactly what's going to happen. So we already have the story pre-written, and
The story is pre-written.
We're just waiting to publish on Connor Bedard coming to Calgary. No, it's an exciting day. There's Brad Treliving always said that to get a lottery pick, like a lot of teams are within striking distance of Connor Bedard this year, you got to go through a lot of pain. Yep. It was not a fun fall for a lot of these teams, not a fun spring for a lot of these teams. The Flames are, as they have been many times, and that's basically since the institution of the draft lottery in '95, they're in no man's land. They're they've only had more than a 5% chance of winning a lottery at all a handful of times in franchise history. I think maybe 5 or 6 times. So I mean, we'll see. I was joking with a friend of mine the other day. It'd be very flamesy if they won the lottery the year that they had mathematically, like, they weren't allowed to get high enough to pick Connor Bedard. But I mean, this is the kind of draft where if you happen to, if the ping pong balls tumble in the right way and they get a top 6 pick, this is the kind of year where the 6th overall pick is going to be a very, very, very good player. I mean, 16th overall is also going to be a pretty good player too, but you'd always rather have the higher pick, right?
Yeah, and I hate to correct you, but the true Flame part of this would be to actually fall back, even though they can't, right?
This year they can't.
They can't. But that would truly be the Flame thing, is to find a way to go to 17, right?
There's no lottery picks behind the Flames. It's the Flames are the for better or for worse, they're the best team that didn't make the playoffs. They cannot
fall. Every other team in this thing. That's how you have to look at it, right, Ryan? Every other team can lose ground except Calgary tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way the draft happens to be, and they probably A, wish they made the playoffs, or B, wish they didn't make the playoffs a lot sooner and then got a better draft pick. But, we are where we are, right?
We are. For the benefit of, and I don't like doing this, but I think we're both of the understanding that in drafts there's plateaus, right? That, the first pick is this, the first 4 picks are this, the plateau in which the Calgary Flames find themselves, general consensus. Can you give us a sense of the players that are going to be at that, but assuming they don't move much from 16?
Yes, I'm one of those people that sort of takes a look at all the incoming draft rankings from our many fine colleagues throughout the hockey world.
Right.
So I aggregated into a handy spreadsheet. I would say the big gap right now is after the top 10. Obviously, top 3 or 4 are going to be in some combination. Connor Bedard, Adam Fantilli, and then one of Leo Carlson and Matvei Michkov. They'll probably go 3, 4 in some order. And then Will Smith and Zach Benson round out the top 6. Then there's a big gap. Then there's Dalibor Dvorsky and Ryan Leonard and Oliver Moore, and then a gap again. And then they're sort of a cluster right around where the Flames go.
Okay.
10 would be 10 through 15 right now are Andrew Cristall, Axel Sandin Pellica, Edward Saleh, Colby Barlow, Braden Yeager, and David Reinbacher. And then there's a gap, and then there's the Flames. So the Flames will get, barring anything fancy happening, the 16th overall pick. The consensus 16th overall pick right now is Nate Danielson of the Brandon Wheat Kings.
Mm-hmm.
Gabe Perreault of the U.S. National Development Team is also there. So is Riley Height of Prince George and Matthew Wood of the University of Connecticut. Those are sort of the guys who sort of we expect to sort of be around. But this is also kind of a weird draft year because when you look at sort of the different ledges, basically everybody has the same top 4. Everyone has, Bedard, then Fantilli, then the 2 guys in some order between Matt Carlson and Matthew Michkov, and then chaos from 6 down. So some of these guys, we've seen Andrew Cristall as high as 6 or 7 on some of these rankings. We've seen Andrew Cristall off of the first round in some of these rankings. He generally is a consensus first rounder, but he's not a unanimous first rounder. And I think that's this feels kind of like, there's 2 drafts that come to mind when I think of this draft.
Okay.
In terms of just pure talent level, it's 2005. Like this is just a murderer's row of good to very good prospects. But it's also kind of like 2012 where there was, everyone's like, the top 2 guys are pretty good. And then who the hell knows?
Yep.
And, Craig Conroy, we were at Winsport once for a dev camp. And we were just talking about how chaotic the draft can be. And he sort of shrugged. He's like, 30 different lists. That was when there's 30 teams. Right now, there's probably the same 5 guys for the top 4 or 5. And then chaos throughout all these lists. And that's sort of what we're seeing from all these rankings from very well-informed people throughout the hockey world. So if we're going to say, the Flames will get Nate Danielson, I mean, maybe, but one of those guys who is in that consensus top 15 could easily tumble down depending on maybe somebody likes somebody better. I don't know.
Well, and again, using, I think 2012 as an example, you may get that shuffling within the picks, right? That, oh my gosh, we didn't think he'd be available. Can we get to so-and-so's pick at 8 to get him? Or, oh my gosh, we're a pick away and there's 5 guys on our board. Can we move back and pick something up?
The Flames did that in 2020 twice because I think the story that Brad Living told everyone was, and I have no reason not to believe Brad Living, but the thing you always hear when somebody gets drafted is, this is the guy we really want. We had him circled. This is the guy we want all along.
Yeah. Couldn't believe he fell.
What probably happened, and actually what Brad sort of alluded to, was there was a handful of guys in 2020 when their first pick came up that they went, ooh, we'd be fine with any of these guys. They're all really good. And they saw the opportunity to trade down and get some extra picks out of it. And, that's how they got Jeremy Poirier. That's how they got Jake Boltman. So, I mean, depending on how you feel about Poirier and Boltman as prospects, I mean, you always want to have more kicks at the can. And this, I agree with you. This feels like the kind of draft where I think everyone's going to have probably the top 4 picks sort of written in pencil, at least, 1, 2, and 3A, 3B. And then there's going to be a lot of surprises from 5 onward. And especially, if somebody unique gets, a a lottery pick, wins that one of those two draws, this could be utter chaos. And I, as someone who cheers to chaos, I love writing about chaos. This has the makings of what could be a really fun draft because of the depth in this entire class. I mean, there's almost two first rounds worth of good prospects available, but then you're going to get, the teams that don't get those tippity top 4 or 5 guys will be going, well, we also like this guy here. Let's try to see if we can move down a bit. So I figure we're going to see a lot of shuffling once those first 4, 5, 6 picks go down.
What about, and I apologize, I should know this, but what about goalies in this draft? Are there top end goalies? Because that can also play a role in this too, right?
I believe there's one goalie who's sort of shown up here and there in the first round. I believe he's from Brandon, Carson Bjornsson.
Yeah, okay.
He's a first rounder on 2 perspective lists. McKean's had him on their first round in the midseason,
right.
And in February, I believe Sam Cosentino at Sportsnet had him in his first round too, in the late first round. Teams, there's no Yarrow Askarov this year. There's no Jake Ottinger. There's nobody who's seen like that kind of a tippity top goalie, but he's good. I mean, he's shown up in a lot of lists that he feels like the type of goalie that he'll fall into the early second round, and somebody with multiple picks will just jump on him and be pretty happy with that pick. But this is the type of draft where there are different types of players all over the place, and there's a few teams that will have multiple picks. I mean, we're looking at you, Ottawa. We're looking at you, Arizona, Chicago.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams that will have the ability to do weird, daring things because they have multiple picks. And, I thought Arizona did a great job of that last year. And I think a lot of teams sort of look at Arizona's draft class from 2022 and go, oh, let's just copy them. That's a great way of doing it. So, it's a copycat league. And I figure we're going to see quite a bit of copycatting in the next coming weeks and months.
Well, the only thing we'll know for sure tonight is likely, well, now you can't say the only thing we'll know for sure is likely. The only thing we'll know for sure is where Connor Bedard is going tonight.
And probably Adam Fantilli.
Yeah, sorry, that's true too, right? Because the consensus. Yeah. And there's your percentages. And he would look fine with the Ducks. Fantilli going to the Blue Jackets is interesting considering some of the young guys they have and some of the old guys they have. But let's wait and see because it's not like the NHL not to have something wacky happen that makes everybody question the integrity of everything. So we'll see. Right.
Yeah. And right after the Flames get their arena done, of course the Flames will win the lottery because Gary Bettman will be happy with them now.
Yes, that's right. So the move to 6.
The funniest thing is in the NHL's breakdown of they in the media portal, they actually have a breakdown of all the lottery ball combinations that would go for each team. And they actually do a full video that they release afterwards of the drawing that's done by, I believe it's done by Ernst & Young.
Yeah.
It's done by some accounting firm. I assume it's Ernst & Young because they do the awards balloting too. But
right.
they have people from every lottery team in the room watching the draft. They have, they've gone out of their way to ensure they have as much deniability as possible if anything weird happens, which is the smart thing to do because it's sports and weird stuff happens in sports.
Weird stuff happens. I wouldn't say weird stuff happens. Weird stuff had the potential happening in the first round or in the second round of the American Hockey League playoffs, but it was as expected. Calgary getting by Abbotsford, maybe a little closer in the scores than we thought, especially in Abbotsford, right?
4 1-goal games. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, Abbotsford, they're a good team. They're a really balanced team. When I spoke with the gentleman over at Canucks Conversation last week after the first game. And, the observation I had was I really like the balance and the depth that the Abbotsford Canucks have. They have 2 really good goalies. Granted, neither as good as Dustin Wolf, but they got 2 really good goalies. Spencer Martin spent a lot of time in the NHL this year and was pretty good. They have a bunch of defensemen who played in the NHL, and, none of them are gigantic needle movers, but none of them are pushovers. I mean, when Brady Keeper is on your third pairing, you're doing some things right. Yep. And then they have basically 4 lines worth of really interesting prospects. And a couple of guys like Nils Höglander is very good. They have a few other guys like that. So, I mean, they're a really well-balanced team, well-coached. And, they took it to the Wranglers. They, for better or for worse, a lot of the momentum for the Wranglers goes through number 11. And they saw Matthew Phillips and went, this guy's, 150 pounds soaking wet. Let's just beat the hell out of this kid, and that'll throw them off their game. And it didn't really work.
No.
And if you're Coachella Valley, I mean, Coachella Valley, second best team in the regular season, and they and the Wranglers were neck and neck. I think they were separated by 3 points for first overall, and that very important first round bye. But if you're Coachella Valley and you're looking at the results for the first round, if you're doing video, I think that the what you try to do is what Abbotsford tried to do, and it didn't quite work. So it's going to be fascinating the next 2 weeks, because these are the two best teams in the American Hockey League based on the regular season, and they're gonna this has all the makings of a 5-game, multiple games with overtime, trench battle, because there's really not a lot separating these two teams.
Right. I was going to ask you, what is the setup for second round of the American Hockey League? Best of 5, and top seed gets to pick again.
Yep. And the Wranglers decide they want to do they last time, and see if they can start off with 2 wins, and then see if you can eke one more out on the road. And I get it. It makes sense. I mean, I know folks, everyone on social media, as soon as the schedule came out, went, wait, they only get 2 home games? Yeah, but they get their choice. Like they get 2 guaranteed home games. The, Coachella Valley might only host 1 game.
Yep.
And so if you're the Wranglers, you're probably thinking, let's go with the guaranteed home dates.
Coachella is also Seattle's farm club. What are they missing in terms of Black Aces up with Seattle? Are they missing anything that
They're missing, I think, 1 or 2 players. They had a gentleman who got called up, and his name escapes me because I don't watch a lot of Seattle Wranglers.
Yeah, me. Yeah.
The Seattle Kraken. Right now, they're missing Ty Kartai.
Okay.
He's really the most significant guy who's been called up. He got called up to basically cover for injuries, but because Coachella Valley is still active, the Kraken aren't carrying a lot of extra bodies. They're carrying, I think, like 2 or 3 extra players. Not too many. I think they might have an extra goaltender. But I think Chris Drieger's up as their 3rd goalie.
Okay.
And so right now the goalies that they have, they're basically platooning Joey Decord and Chris Gibson. And
and Decord's got NHL experience.
Yeah, Decord's good.
Okay.
I mean, he's correct me if I'm wrong. He was the first Arizona State Sun Devil to ever be signed to an NHL contract. And he's good. I think the difference between Joey Decord and players who stick around the NHL more consistently is just, he's in an organization that has some depth, and, you sign, you have Drieger ahead of you. You sign Martin Jones to be the backup when Drieger got hurt. So that sort of pushes you down the depth chart a bit. But I mean, if Joey Decord's your 4th best goalie in your pecking order, you're probably pretty happy with your depth.
I agree. Split the season series too, did they not? 4-4?
4-4. I believe the Wranglers outshot them or outscored them. I think something like 29-26. Like it was, 1 or 2 games. Yeah, like the difference between these two teams was not very much, and that season series went down to the very last week of the season. The Wranglers and then were basically tied for the last 2 months in terms of the standings. And the Wranglers pulled away in that last week when I think they played in Palm Springs and beat Coachella Valley. And that essentially just put them ahead for the division lead. And they stayed ahead the rest of the way. They ended up clinching in the last weekend of the season. But, these are 2 teams that know each other very well. The Wranglers played Coachella Valley, first 2 games of Coachella Valley's existence.
Yep.
And the Wranglers were out of sorts. They were figuring stuff out. They had a lot of guys who came down from the Flames camp, a little bit disappointed with how their performances were. And, the Wranglers, to be blunt, weren't great in the first little bit. And, they got their act together. And I think, if you're the Wranglers, you're probably feeling pretty happy with yourselves because they withstood a really good challenge from Abbotsford. But also, I think, if you wipe out that first 2 weeks of the season for the Wranglers and just look at what they feel is sort of a representative sample or representative example of how they play this year, they've managed to go toe to toe with most of the best teams in the league, or at least most of the best teams in their conference, and come out ahead. So, it's gonna be fun, man. It's they've had a few very dramatic games. The first 2 games went to overtime in Calgary, and there's nothing quite as good as a nice playoff overtime on a Friday or a Thursday night.
Yeah, and that was the other thing I was going to say. Just because of the nature of the business, the Roughnecks, Shania Twain, back-to-back 1 and 2. So it's going to happen real quick, folks. If you're going, grab your tickets now.
Yeah, they're. I think the ticket prices went up a little bit from like $40 to $50 for adults. I think the kids prices are up a little bit as well. But I mean, it's the third round of the AHL playoffs,
Yeah,
and
well,
you know,
that's
for
everything increments.
yeah, and you know, it's very
Still good
inexpensive for a night
value.
out.
Yes.
And you know, it's good hockey. I mean, you get to
Mhm.
see some very good Flames prospects, and you know, if we're being quite honest here, you're going to see some guys that'll probably be wearing the Flames sweater come October. So you might as well get in early, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. You let's talk a little bit about the big club before the big finale here. Thoughts on the GM search? I know that Elliot Friedman brought up Stan Bowman's name. Boomer and I were kicking it around. I certainly would open the floor for you. Okay.
I'll say this. I'll say this. I'm not a big Stan Bowman guy now. I think the challenge is, you know, a lot of the stuff they did in Chicago was the product of being bad. I mean, you're
Mhm.
quite bad, and you get a Patrick Kane, you get a Jonathan Toews. So, I mean, all due credit to the scouting teams and their drafting development team. They did a decent job drafting when they had high picks, and then you know they had a good core and built around it. But I mean, you know, I don't think it's unfair to say that those championships they've won are at the very least tainted based on the everything else that we learned about
Kyle Beach.
the
Yeah.
organization. I mean,
Yeah.
you know the Kyle Beach stuff. Even if you read the most sanitized version of it, it's I think the challenge is this, and this isn't necessarily specific to Stan Bowman, but this is sort of how I see things more broadly. A lot of these jobs, especially GM and head coach, you're basically betting on someone's judgment. You're betting
Mhm.
on their ability to set the tone in
Mhm.
terms of decision making, in terms of role modeling behaviors, in terms. I'd say the same thing as if you have someone with the captaincy. You know, these are the people who are the flag bearers for your organization at various levels to the public, internally, and so on. And you know, you want to be able to really bet on the judgment of the people you have in place.
Right.
And you know, for the most part, I think the Flames have had very good luck. Some of it's always luck because you don't know everything about
Sure.
everybody. But you know, with the possible exception of obviously Bill Peters, uh, I think they've done a good job putting the good people and the right people in those positions, but it's tough. And I think there's so much unknown these days about how people react in different situations, that when you do know how someone reacts in a certain situation and they react in the wrong way, or a way that you wish, ooh, if they had a do-over, they should have done that completely differently. I think it makes it difficult to really, really root for them to get another opportunity in that kind of a situation.
I'm okay if you screw up in a hockey decision. I'm okay if you screw up with a trade. I've said this often. As you know, I spent a lot of time around young hockey players and young athletes, and I think failure is we have got to promote failure. Failure is how you learn. I am the product of failure. I have failed way more than I've ever succeeded, and I've learned from all of it. I'm okay with that. This isn't that. What was done to this young man, the way his life was just cast aside just to win. And to me, almost, and now I'm getting on my soapbox, and that's not what you were doing, Ryan. I get you, but the way that the way they handled that, the whole thing, right up until having to be dragged out by their ear to say they're sorry. I'm sorry. That's not a. I'm all for second chances, and I'm all for people making mistakes. That's not what this is. But not me. I'm not making the decisions. But I will be screaming from the mountaintops if this guy gets the job for these reasons.
And I'll say that, like, I get the idea of casting a wide net. I mean, you want to, like, you and Boomer were talking about the idea of, like, why did they just give it to Craig Conroy? I still think that Craig Conroy might be the best bet for the job, but I also think, you don't want the optics to be, oh, we just gave it to Craig.
Right.
You want the optics to be, well, we talked to 20 bona fide hockey men and women who are the best and the brightest, and after we talk to all of them, here's why we think Craig's the best.
Exactly.
And I think that's the easiest way to set him up for success.
Right.
And even if it's not Craig, whoever you end up hiring, I'm leaning Craig at this point, unless I hear something otherwise. But you talk to as many people, you get ideas about what are we doing well, what would you do, those kind of things. I mean, no one. It's like that. It's like that job interview in The Office where they're replacing Steve Carell's character. You're never going to go into a job interview and say, "Here's our plan," because it's a copycat league. I'm not going to say they're not going to steal your plan. Those borrow elements of it because that's how life works.
Mm-hmm.
So. But you go in and you get perspectives on what you're doing. Like, a lot of these discussions with people like AGMs, directors of hockey ops, scouts, whatever, even agents. I mean, when Don Maloney says he talked a long time to agents,
Yep.
you talk to agents about what do you think the Flames are doing well? What do you think they're not doing well? What
Yep.
kind of coach do you think they need? What kind of manager do you think they need? A lot of these different things. And because, there's a lot of things I think the Flames have done very well. Case in point, drafting and development these days. If you look at, you don't accidentally have a farm team that made it to the conference finals last year and won the league, in the regular season this year. That doesn't happen on accident. That means you're doing some things very well. Yep. So when you're going out and you're making these kind of organizational changes, you want to make sure that, you talk to folks outside the bubble and say, what's working? What should we not mess with? And then, when you do these interviews with these people, you can say, hey, we think we're doing X well. How are you going to fix the other parts?
Yep.
And that sort of frames the discussion. So I think, I think that's what a lot of these broader discussions are going, and I imagine with someone with the experience of Stan Bowman, you'd be curious what he thinks. I don't know if being curious what he thinks equates to him being a contender, serious or otherwise, for the position.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's plenty of people that you might not have any intention of hiring that you talk to just for perspective. Just, you buy them dinner, you say, hey, what do you think we're doing? You fill your notebook, you go, cool, see you later. And then you maybe never talk to them again.
Dude, I've had no shortage of people that came up and listened to us last week and said, I like what Ryan said about Carla McLeod. Why wouldn't you take someone? And I've still, again, we don't know who the GM is, and I still have no problem saying that I would talk to Carla McLeod as a coach because of what she's done. It's been all done out in the open, but you're the one that said, have her around, because of what she's done. And I've had more people come say
this. Yeah. Do you know what I really thought was a smart move? And granted, I mean, other teams have done this too. Mm-hmm. Getting Rebecca Johnston in with the Flames is such a smart idea. And it's kind of, it kind of makes you wonder why they didn't do it earlier, but getting someone with several Olympic medals in to talk to your up and coming prospects, like she immediately has credibility to these guys, because a lot of these young guys, they follow all kinds of hockey, women's hockey, men's hockey, any kind of hockey. And her name perks their ears up. They go,
absolutely, it does.
And I don't think she's the only one in that conversation for, people that, just draw your attention based on their credentials. So I think if you can find as many smart people as possible to build out your group, regardless of what you have them doing, just having them in the room, have them at the table. I mean, I think that's really important to do, because, if you want to get better, the easiest way to get better is to talk to people you're not usually talking to and say, what are we doing wrong? What are we doing well? And then you just try not to screw up the things you're doing well when you're fixing other things.
Right. No, I agree. One more Flames thing that I want to ask you a little bit about the playoffs. You're the managing editor, so you're the one that works with the content that comes in, and you have to make the decisions and everything. Ryan, do you really? Now I've almost muddied the water. With Daryl gone, do you think there was really a second thought by players last week that said, "Oh, okay, he's gone, so I'll stay"? Do you think that could have happened, might have happened, or did happen?
My guess is it happened.
Okay.
My guess is it happened. Because, I mean, if the idea is that, you're facing, if you sign a new contract, even if you come back, you're facing another 82 games of screaming matches over this, that, the other thing.
Right.
Maybe, no, I don't like getting yelled at in my life. So I'd probably, if you gave me the opportunity to get the same money and not get yelled at, I'd choose no yelling. So, I mean, but I based on the people that were hearing the change of heart stuff from, I don't doubt it.
Okay. To the playoffs we go. I haven't talked about any of this today. So we can talk about all four series. But the sexy series to talk about is the Panthers and the Maple Leafs. And I'm not sure if it's sexy because of the good or sexy because of the potential bad. But
what are you talking about? The Leafs are going to win 4 in a row.
Yeah. They could.
They're either going to win 4 in a row or they're not going to win any more games. I think that's sort of
well,
where
and
I'm
that
at.
and honestly, I don't think they win. I don't think they win tomorrow. I think they're done. And teams have come back as recently as I believe LA came back down 3-0, and that's happened. But this doesn't look like that. They had to go to Wall yesterday because of, I believe, of an injury. Samsonov did not come back. Their superstars are nowhere to be seen. And right now, it just seems like everybody on Florida is becoming a superstar. I'm just curious. I didn't see this. I could see Florida. Listen, when they beat Boston, could they beat Toronto? Sure. But I thought it was going to be the same formula. But to be up 3-0 and really, in many ways, kind of running the show, that's a bit of a shocker to me.
Yeah, the thing that really impresses me the most about Florida is that they're basically embracing counterpunch hockey. Like they're waiting. You could tell they've done a lot of video work on systems and breakouts and those kind of things. But they seem very content and very confident just to play their game and wait for the gaps to appear and then strike. And if they had worse luck, it's a completely different series. If the Leafs had any luck, it's a completely different series. But I mean, you play the games you got to play, and so far the Leafs have just in those close tight moments they've found ways to lose. And the Panthers they've dating back to that game against Boston, like the last couple of games against Boston, especially that game 7, they just found the areas of the ice they need to find exactly what they need to find it. And the Panthers might have had in the last 5 games like 12 excellent scoring chances, but they've managed to score in almost all of them. And when you can do that, and when your team is feeling that confident that when certain players have the stick on their have their puck on their stick, or they're anywhere near the blue paint, that chaos is going to reign. I mean, that's the thing. I think I'll say this. This is we've seen Matthew Tkachuk sort of fade into the background at times in past playoff series. He was excellent in that bubble series against Dallas, and then he got hurt. But outside of that, I think he's, historically he's been a very ordinary playoff player, despite the fact that you expect his playing style to really lend itself to the playoffs.
Like it does now.
He's been so good. Sam Bennett has been playoff Sam Bennett when he's been in the lineup and he's been healthy. Like they've managed to have everything, that special sauce going at the same time. And, who knows how long this lasts for Florida, but you got to give them credit for, they don't seem like they care why it's working. They just go, okay, good.
This Matt Tkachuk, the way Matt Tkachuk is playing now, I think could have been a difference maker in that second round series against Edmonton last year. I'm not talking about Draisaitl this year. Draisaitl this year is something completely different. But this Matthew Tkachuk this year, if he was playing that way last year, I think could have been a difference maker in that series. At least could have pushed it. Could have pushed it.
The way Matthew Tkachuk's playing, he could be a difference maker in most series. I mean,
but the point I'm trying to make, like that was, you came away from that second round series going like they had no pushback. Where was the pushback? This is where Matthew Tkachuk is supposed to have pushback.
When dating back to like his time in junior, the thing with Matthew Tkachuk is when Matthew Tkachuk is on his game, he has the ability, more so than I think a lot of players in the entire league, to dictate where and how and the style of game a game is going to be played.
Yeah.
And not a lot of guys can do that. I mean, we've seen him, like, think about I vividly recall like 2 or 3 different games between the Flames and the Oilers. There was one game, it wasn't the goalie fight game, but it was a game the season before, I believe.
Was Zach Kassian?
He got Zach Kassian to take a triple minor, and the Flames ended up winning that game because of all the momentum they got off that power play. How do you get a veteran player who's usually that composed like Zach Kassian to take a triple minor?
Right?
That's insane. But he has the ability to make normally smart, normally composed, structured veteran players just lose their damn minds. Yeah. And not a lot of guys do that. I mean, I'd put Evander Kane in that category too. Evander Kane's the kind of guy that you just want to throttle him sometimes. And a lot of guys try to do it during games.
Early in his career, his own teammates tried to do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a certain number of guys that have that ability to just turn up the temperature.
Yeah.
And I think, as much as I know folks in this area code are sort of shaking their heads and wishing you could be doing it in a different, shade of red sweater.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as a fan of the player and the person, it's hard not to really, get engaged in what he's doing, because this is what that we were told that Matthew Tkachuk could be like when he grew up. And I'll say this: he knows exactly what he's doing. That's the
Oh,
thing
no,
I like
no,
about
no.
Matthews.
Yeah, no.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
Brilliant point by you. He absolutely does, and he knows who he's doing it to.
Yeah.
Right. It's one thing that he knows what he's doing, but he knows who he's doing it to. With that said, with Dallas looking as average as they did yesterday, it is really beginning to look like the highway is opening up for Edmonton here. That, I'm not everybody's got a good, whoever's on the right side of a series right now is a great story. And we just talked about how great Florida is. But Draisaitl's the best player on the planet playing with the best player on the planet.
Yeah.
Like that's the crazy part. And Ekholm and it just seems like it's lining up.
I need to see another couple of games of that, because like how many, we've seen even in the LA series, we saw Edmonton look absolutely lights out, and we look like they had games where they look like someone turned their controller off.
Yeah, but now they've learned how to come back.
Yeah.
And I go back to that game where they were down 3-0 after the first period, and they flipped the switch and they figured it out. And that's when I said they're dangerous now, because now they believe.
And they got 2 games at home, and the Oilers at Rogers Place are very dangerous. And I mean, of course, the locals here have won once in however many years in Vegas, and to the point where every time I do a recap, I just pre-write some version of the house always wins pun, because they always do.
Yeah.
And Vegas has had that advantage. This year it's been a little bit diminished, but they look very ordinary in game 2. And now it's like, we always talk about, the pressure being on the Edmonton Oilers based on who they have in their team, because, if they lose, the big outcry from throughout the hockey world is, holy crap, you have 100-point seasons from 3 different guys, McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent-Hopkins, and you still couldn't do anything in the playoffs. And that's always going to be the big knock on them until they do something in the playoffs. Vegas doesn't have that. Vegas is just, they're a good team, but they've never really had the built-in, pressure of having the 2 best players in the world in their team. And they do, and it's worked. But I think right now, will the pressure go on to Vegas as a team that looked tremendously ordinary in game 2? And can they respond and have a bounce back for game 3 and 4? Because, if I say this, unless if this is a 2-2 series, I like Edmonton's chances. If it's, I think Vegas needs to find a way to make life difficult for Edmonton, because I think Edmonton feels 10 feet tall right now, not just when 29's on the ice, but they have a lot of good things going for them and a lot of guys starting to round into form.
They really do. Happy Connor Bedard Day to you. We know that there's lots going on and will continue to be going on at Flames Nation this week, especially with the Wranglers playing. So having said all of that, busy times, you'll be down at the rink, I'm sure, this week. And then the Roughnecks play. I mean, there's a lot, for a
and
team
Stars on Ice, which I don't know what it is.
Stars on Ice. Not quite interpretive dance, but Stars on Ice. Ryan, appreciate this, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good week.
There you go. Ryan Pike, everybody, from Flames Nation. He joins us, of course, courtesy of the Ski Cellar Snowboard, skicellarsnowboard.com. 76 years in Calgary. Right now, get great deals on warm clothes. I know it's warm outside, but you're going to need warm clothes. Plus, maybe you're looking for skis. Maybe you're looking for snowboards. That wouldn't be a bad time to go check them out. 3 locations in Calgary: McLeod Trail by Chinook Center, 17th Avenue Southwest, and Bow Ridge Road Northwest. Coming up on Wednesday, Adam Seaborn from Playmaker Capital and the Nation Network is going to join us. Some sports business stuff to catch up on. Friday, I understand that our guest on Friday is going to have a rather spectacular column appear in Post Media about the CFL, and then he's going to join us to talk about it. Danny Austin will join us in studio in the coming weeks. Craig Button, Mike Rogers. So we've got some really cool guests coming. Going to try and get some other people rounded up here to talk some hockey and some other things. Lots of things going on in our city. We want to stay on top of it, but really do appreciate everybody joining us today for our final mile. As you're aware, there are some things happening up north when it comes to forest fires. That's a former life of mine, paying very close attention to Entwistle and to some of the northern communities that are already seeing big-time spring fires. For those who are in the business, It scares the hell out of me when I hear 80, 81 all over again, because those were just incredible years for forest fires in the wrong way, devastating years. We're starting to hear some of that with the droughts, and we're starting to hear drought codes and some of the fact it's just so dry out there and things are spreading. So do send our thoughts and prayers. I do have a client that I work with, Parachutes for Pets. They are, if you are so orientated and want to help, there are over, I believe, 1,000, somewhere in that neighborhood, of pets that have been displaced with their families that are in Edmonton and other centers. So Parachutes, we're sending up food, pet supplies. If you can and you could, please donate, please support it. This is where Albertans helping Albertans comes in. But Parachutes for Pets is taking care of that part of the safety net in which families and their pets reside. So as you displace people, you displace pets. So I just thought I'd throw that out. Check them out. Google them, Parachutes for Pets on social. You just saw the note there. If you can help them, that would be terrific. We're gonna call it a day. It has been a day. Looking forward to another one on Wednesday. Glad you're with us. As I said, with Boomer, celebrating 20 years in Calgary. The only thing that I'm just blessed with is that I live in this city, which used to be a campaign on one of the radio stations, 66 CFR, Canada's greatest city. And I truly believe that. I believe in Made in Calgary solutions. I work for a number of groups that are Made in Calgary solutions, and I will continue to promote Made in Calgary solutions. And despite that this little network started in Edmonton, that's okay. We all had to start somewhere. I truly believe FlamesNation and the Nation Network is really taking off in Calgary, and we're going to be the driver. So lots of good things in our city, and I'm proud to be a Calgarian. This is home. Will always be home. Thank you for embracing me. Thank you for allowing me and my family to come here and do that 20 years ago. And it has been the greatest honor. See you on Wednesday, everybody.
When there's two sides to every coin, then there's a conversation you can join. But I'm an old dog and there's new tricks, and some of my opinions you just can't fix. 'Cause I'm an old man yelling at the sky. I'ma shake my fist at the clouds and cry, get off my lawn, you snowflake, before I have